The morning sky bled a pale rust over the plains as Elias Boone walked the frost-bitten edge of Dry Creek, his breath trailing like a wraith in the stillness. At 14, his shoulders were already bowed by the kind of silence that outlives words. They called him ghost-blooded in town, son of a woman who never remarried and a father whose name was spoken only as warning. He did not protest the name. Some fates, he believed, were inherited like scars. He carried his water pail, boots too large from seasons of hand-me-downs, head lowered as though the sky itself pressed upon him. He was used to this solitary hour, to hearing nothing but the crunch of gravel and the sigh of wind gnawing at the canyon walls. Yet today, something broke that rhythm, a sound too raw to be wind. A ragged gasp. A human sound. Elias froze. For a heartbeat, the world held still. Then he followed it. Down among the reeds, sprawled beside the creek's edge, lay a man torn by blood and breath, an Apache warrior. The stranger's skin was earth-dark, his chest marked with painted symbols now smeared by crimson. An arrow shaft jutted from his side, broken but deep. His eyes fluttered open, black as obsidian, filled not with plea but defiance. Elias stumbled back. Every tale he'd heard in town surged through him, whispers of raids, of knives in the night, of Apache fire. Run, instinct howled. Scream for the sheriff. But the warrior did not raise a weapon. He could not even lift his head. Elias's mother had once said, "Mercy is the last thing we own when the world has taken all else." He did not understand it then. He did now. He knelt. His hands trembled so fiercely he nearly dropped the pail. The warrior's breath rattled like stones in a riverbed. Elias touched the man's forehead. Hot, burning. Fever had him. Elias tore off his coat, pressing it to the wound though his stomach lurched at the rush of blood. The warrior growled low, a warning, yet he did not strike. Somewhere behind those eyes burned bewilderment. Why does this boy not run? "I'll fetch water," Elias whispered, unsure whether the man understood. He lifted the pail, dipped it, and returned. Every action felt stolen, dangerous. With each breath, he expected rifle shots, shouts, the sheriff's iron grip on his collar. But the plains remained silent, blind to this forbidden mercy. He dragged the warrior, inch by brutal inch, to an abandoned storm cellar tucked beneath a ridge. The man convulsed once, nearly tearing free. Elias braced him, hissing through gritted teeth, "I ain't letting you die out here." The warrior's eyes flickered and closed. Inside the cellar, the air was cool and stale. Elias tore strips from his shirt, soaking them to clean the wound. The arrowhead had snapped near the muscle. He dared not dig. All he could do was bind, whispering, "Hold on," though the warrior was unconscious. When night fell, Elias sealed the cellar door and crept back home, every step a secret heavier than hunger. At supper, his mother eyed him. "You've gone pale." "I'm fine," he lied, hands hidden beneath the table, still stained with red. She did not press. She understood silence the way preachers understand scripture. Each dawn, he returned. The warrior, Gray Wolf, he would later learn, drifted between fever and fury. Once, Elias offered water and the warrior struck the cup aside, eyes blazing. "Then die," Elias muttered, retreating. Yet he returned hours later, this time speaking before pouring. "Drink. Or I'll pour it down your stubborn throat." It was not kindness but command that broke through. The warrior drank. Days passed. The fever raged then ebbed. In lucid moments, Gray Wolf studied Elias with a hawk's suspicion. No thanks. No trust. Only observation. Elias told him nothing of the sheriff's patrols, of the whispers rising in town, Apache tracks, missing livestock, fear curling through every saloon corner. If they knew what he harbored. On the fourth night, Elias found May Carter waiting near the well. Lantern in hand, hair tucked beneath a kerchief, she watched him with those perceptive eyes that saw beyond flesh. "You've been vanishing before sunrise," she said. "If you're in trouble." "I ain't," he interrupted, too quickly. She stepped closer. "Whatever you're hiding, Elias, be certain it's worth dying for." He could not meet her eyes. He moved past her, heart hammering. She did not follow. Back in the cellar, Grey Wolf sat upright, breath shallow but eyes clear. The warrior spoke for the first time in English, voice cracked yet resonant. "Why help enemy?" Elias paused. "Because I am one, too," he thought. But he only said, "You were dying." Grey Wolf studied him, unreadable. Then, with slow deliberation, he reached for something beneath his shredded belt, a small carved feather, worn smooth by time. He held it out. Elias hesitated, then took it. The warrior lay back, eyes drifting closed, surrendering to sleep without fear for the first time. Elias turned the feather in his palm. Not a gift. A mark. A bond sealed in silence. He did not know that miles away, hooves had begun to stir. That warriors were whispering of a missing brother. That mercy, once given, cannot be buried. But as he closed the cellar door and stepped into the wind, Elias felt it, the faint trembling of the earth beneath his feet, as though something vast had changed direction, its path now crossing his own. The wind shifted before the town heard them. A distant tremor, subtle as breath against glass, rolled across the plains. Elias Boone stood at the edge of the livery yard, pitchfork in hand, when the horses began to thrash in their stalls, eyes rolling white. He felt it then, not sound, but consequence, rising like thunder buried beneath earth. Something was coming. And it had not forgotten him. Harvest Sunday had drawn the town from their solitude. Banners hung limp across Main Street, and laughter, thin, uncertain, drifted between the chapel and saloon. But even celebration trembled under rumor, Apache signs near the ridge, cattle tracks scattered, dry wells found with strange markings scorched into their stones. Sheriff Barrow walked the street with his rifle cradled in his arm, gaze fixed on every horizon. He saw shadows in the dust, conspiracies in silence. Elias kept to the periphery, as he always had. Eyes followed him, but no one spoke. If they had known what he carried in memory, the face of the warrior he'd hidden, the language that had passed unspoken between them, he would have been dragged before the church steps and judged without scripture. Yet he walked, solitary, head low, clutching a folded scrap of cloth in his coat pocket. The feather Grey Wolf had given him. Proof of something he did not yet understand. It began with a scream. A young girl, running from the ridge path, bonnet trailing, voice shredded by terror. Then the cry rose from others as they saw it too, beyond the wheat fields, across the mirage-warped heat of noon, figures on horseback. Not a handful. Not a raiding party. A legion. 200 riders, cresting the hills in solemn silence, black hair bound, faces painted in ash and ochre. Spear tips glinted. Banners of dyed hide shivered in their wake. They rode not with savage frenzy, but with the precision of a storm that has chosen where to break. Panic ruptured. Storefront doors slammed. Mothers pulled children into cellars. Men overturned tables, dragged rifles from windows. The chapel bell clanged wild and hopeless, not in worship, but warning. Sheriff Barrow strode into the street, voice ironed flat. To arms. Hold the line. But behind the command lived something darker, fear of the war he had always sworn was coming. Elias did not flee. His blood beat cold, feet rooted to the dust. He knew, with a terrible clarity, why they had come. A choice made in a forgotten cellar had rippled outward, returning now like a tidal wave of hooves. Elias. May Carter's voice seized him. She seized his sleeve, nails biting through fabric. You have to hide. They'll kill you first. No, he murmured. They won't. She froze. A realization flickered in her eyes, fragile, dangerous. What did you do? Before he could answer, the riders halted. Not at the outskirts. In the heart of town. 200 Apache dismounted in the same breath, boots striking earth like a drumbeat. Spears were lowered. But none were aimed. It was a gathering, not an assault. Confusion rippled through the town's defenses. Rifles quivered in pale knuckles. From their center emerged a figure taller than the rest, bearing a cloak of raven feathers and scars that crossed his chest like lightning. His face was no longer sunken by fever. His gait no longer dragged by pain. Grey Wolf. He stepped forward, unarmed. Gasps tore through the crowd. Elias felt May's grip slacken. Sheriff Barrow lifted his rifle barrel. You turn back, he growled. This town won't fall to your savage vengeance. Grey Wolf did not blink. His voice, when he spoke, was clear as flint striking steel. We did not come for vengeance. His gaze passed over the townsfolk, unhurried, unafraid, until it found Elias. It did not waver. We ride for a debt of life. A murmur rose, confusion, disbelief. Barrow's rifle trembled. What debt? Grey Wolf turned, addressing them all. One among you found me broken. One who owed me nothing. One who saved an enemy. He lifted his hand, palm open, calloused and scarred. Among my people, a life returned binds us deeper than blood. The boy is known to us. He is under our shield. A single pair of boots scraped the dust. A farmer cursed under his breath. He sheltered an Apache. Another spat. Treason. The word passed like poison. Sheriff Barrow's jaw clenched. You've brought war to our door, boy. Elias stepped forward then, breath tight but steady. I didn't bring war, he said. The word surprised even him. I brought mercy. If that threatens us, then maybe we were already at war with ourselves. Rifles wavered. Doubt, razor thin, sliced through conviction. Then a howl rose from the southern ridge, smoke, black and rising. A blaze. Barley fields, dry as tinder, had ignited. Flames, whipped by wind, roared toward the town's livestock pens. This fire was no act of Apache. This was nature. And it cared nothing for blame. Grey Wolf turned to his riders. A single command, barked in his tongue. 200 warriors ran, not toward battle, but toward fire. Without hesitation, they formed a line, hacking trench paths, herding panicked cattle from the blaze. Elias ran too, side by side with men whose words he did not know but whose purpose now mirrored his own. Sheriff Barrow, torn between pride and reason, cast aside his rifle and followed. For hours, ash rained. Flames devoured fence posts, blackened earth, scorched skin. But together, they broke it. When the last ember died, night had fallen. In the hush that followed, townfolk and warriors stood mingled, equal in exhaustion, indistinguishable in soot. No words passed. None were needed. Grey Wolf approached Elias. Close now, his eyes held neither gratitude nor farewell, but recognition. He placed a weathered hand on the boy's shoulder. You are not Ghost, he said quietly. You are Bridge. Without ceremony, the Apache mounted. 200 riders turned. As silent as they had arrived, they departed, leaving behind no promise, no threat. Only the echo of hooves and a change none could yet name. Elias watched them vanish into moonlight, the feather still tucked against his heart. Somewhere behind him, May whispered, barely breath, they will speak of this. Elias did not turn. Let them. For the first time, he did not walk in shadow. He walked in echo.